Ladies and gentlemen, he's been known to do strange things to Linksys WOT54Gs. Take things apart when you're not looking. Mr. Larry Pesce.
Whoa. Good morning. How's everybody's hangover? Boo. Yeah, all right. I get it. All right, so thanks for joining me. I'm going to be talking about the making and hacking of the 2011 Mid-Atlantic ccdc badges. So thank you all for coming. If it were me, if I were not on the stage at this time, I'd actually go over and see Carlos. So you don't feel bad if you think I suck and you actually want to go see Carlos, because I want to go see him too. When? Oh, so I've got you guys captive because I suck second, right? Was your second choice? Okay, all right. No worries. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm the senior security consultant with NWN Corporation's nProtect team, formerly STAR. Yes, my boss is sitting in the audience, and yes, I updated the slides last night to have the right team name because we just rebranded. Okay, I'm also the host of Polycom Security Weekly with my good friend Paul, where we discuss all sorts of recent computer security trends. How many of you have listened to Paul.com already? All right, so you don't need to hear about more of that. And you probably don't need to hear that I've also been an author with Syngress for various subjects, including Linksys, WRT54G, Ultimate Hacking, and others, none of which they have for sale over at the store over there, so I'm sorry I can't have you buy one and sign one. So, oh well. Okay. Yeah, I'll sign anybody's books, sure. Yeah, everybody will sign anybody's books. Okay. So some current interests, definitely penetration testing and, well, the dirty word hacking. Of course, the only difference being permission. Okay. I'm really into doing recon from the complex to the mundane. We've gone as far as to theorize and do some work for clients by buying used SIM cards off of eBay and evaluating their SMS messages and phone book entries and how we can potentially get that in scope within a pen test. From looking at geotags and all sorts of crazy stuff, including GPS tracking and so forth. So, granted, if we're going to do that for a pen test, how do attackers leverage that information as well? So let's at least, think about that and potentially put that in scope for some of our clients. Okay. Go figure. I really like wireless of all varieties. I'm really getting into the Zigbee stuff. Just spent some time teaching wireless penetration testing and defenses for SANS, and as part of that, spent a week in Vegas just last week. And we're going to talk a little bit about some Zigbee stuff today at a very high level. But it was really great to be in Vegas and actually remember to bring my Zigbee sniffers and all that good stuff, because I actually got to go walk around the world's largest Zigbee installation. MGM City Center in Las Vegas has over 15,000 nodes of Zigbee stuff installed in the Aria and Vidara hotels. It ended up with me almost getting chased out of the hotel. I was actually walking out of the hotel down the sidewalk and security was walking out behind me and was rolling up in the van because, well, some guy's walking around the hotel with a laptop. That never makes for a good day. It makes them kind of nervous. So next time I'm going to go stay there, and what they do in the privacy of my own room, right? What happens in Vegas ends up on the internet. Okay. And as Paul alluded to a little bit during my introduction, I'm definitely into the whole hardware hacking and sort of turning that into some software hacking as well. I've been known to show up at the house, at the studio, at Paul's house for podcast night, and he'll say, "Hey Larry, check out this new thing that I bought," and he'll go upstairs and grab paper towels for pizza, and he'll come back and it's already apart, and he's yelling at me because he's never even plugged it in and I've already voided the warranty. So that's why I carry one of these with me all the time, and yeah, I flew here, so I checked bags specifically to bring one of these. You don't want to see the hotel TV in my room. Leatherman. So yeah, everything you need. Okay. And some things that you don't. Okay, so enough about me. Let's talk about why we're here. Okay. So how many of you are familiar with the CCDC, the Collegiate Cyber Defense Challenge? Okay, so a couple of you, and looks like we have at least one participant here, maybe more. Okay, Okay, so a little background on the Mid-Atlantic CCDC. It's a challenge funded by the National Science Foundation for college students. And what happens is the college students put together a team, whether it's based out of their computer science club, their computer security club, some sort of common interest in doing some sort of computer security. And not all of them have a huge interest in computer security. They put a team together, they compete locally, then regionally, and the winners from the regionals are the sort of semifinals. They go on to a national competition, and we end up with one winner out of the deal. So what these teams end up doing, at least at the regional level, there's a theme that they pick for the competition for the year. They put the teams in a room and give them a network to defend. Say, here's the scenario. We just hired you as a consulting company, university team, and we just fired all of our networking and computer security staff, and come in and fix the network. Here's the network, it's yours to use to fix it, and why is my email server down? So the deck is already stacked against them. They're showing up and stuff's already broken. They have to come in and fixing it. On the other side of the wall, in the next room over, there's a group of people that do pen testing for a living, already probably broken into the networks that they're trying to fix. So the deck is definitely stacked against them. As part of some of the challenges that we've done at the Mid-Atlantic region last year and the year prior, we give them badges, and we've wanted to get the badges in-game so that they were a hackable asset and a defendable asset for the students to use. So each year has a specific theme, and this past year was smart grid. Pretty cool. They try to get the students involved in some stuff that's definitely seeing some stuff in the industry. So it was pretty easy. There's been lots of federal dollars allocated to both deploying and researching smart grid technologies. So we figured this would be a great introduction for the students to get into this type of stuff. Next year is healthcare, and I am hoping I'm asked back to design the badges for healthcare for the Mid-Atlantic region next year because I've got some particularly evil ideas. I'm thinking heart rate monitors that the students have to wear while they're administering set boxes, and when their heart rate rises, it locks the workstation. And make them wireless so that the red teams can inject false messages so that say their heart rate is too high and the boxes keep locking on them. So that'll be interesting. We'll see how we go. So the challenges that we set up with initially was, okay, we've got an idea for a badge. It's smart meter. Now, how do we design something to get this in game? How do we get the students something that they can hack, they can learn from, that we can have at an affordable cost, and that type of stuff, and then have them have some experience with it in 2 days. The real thing that I wanted to do was, I don't have any experience with smart meters. I don't have any of the experience that would make this. So all of the design is based on what Larry understands it, which quite honestly is probably more than most of the students have an idea as to how it's understood. So we wanted to make it real. Let's make it a real sort of environment. So when we think about the monthly electric bill, you see some fairly static values. In June, your electric bill's higher, you're using your air conditioner. In the winter, your energy consumption might be a little lower because you're not using your air conditioner, your refrigerator stays colder, those types of things. So it's fairly static over a given period of time. And over a multiple year period, you can start to see the analysis that things are fairly static for the same months. And pretty simple, we wanted to have the badges spit out a usage. If you use more energy, well, you pay more money, so that's bad, right? That affects your bottom line as a business. So, i.e., we're going to give them a lower score. The higher score they've got, the better they're doing. Okay, so if they use more energy, their score goes down. If they use less energy, that means they pay less, right? Which means that doesn't affect your bottom line. It's actually good for your bottom line. So that's good. So maybe they get points for using less energy. And we've had some caveats to rules for the game for them. Okay. The overall intent of this game is not Baby Seal Hunt. Oh, that would probably have really kicked ass on Nintendo, right? Okay. I do apologize for some of the pictures. I really love internet memes, so you'll see some of that. And on the plane over here, I had a bunch of slides that didn't have pictures, so I was just picking random pictures from my hard drive. Okay, and this one happened to be one that fit the criteria for game. Okay, so what the ultimate objective about CCDC is and why it's funded by the National Science Foundation is for the students, and I argue even the red teams, all these guys that are doing this professionally to attack systems, is for them to learn. They're there for a learning experience. They're not there to get their asses handed to them in this competition. Because every one of those teams, when they walk out of the door at the end of the contest, has learned something about defending a system, working as a team, how businesses operate in an accelerated time schedule, what it's going to be like in the real world under pressure. And same thing for the red teams. Working as teams, how often do hackers work as teams? As pen testers, fairly often. So they get to learn all that type of stuff too. Some of the other things that we wanted to make sure that we were doing, funded by the National Science Foundation, they didn't have any restrictions on how we did this, but from my perspective, I wanted other folks outside of the competition. In the Mid-Atlantic region, there was about 150 competitors, both red and blue teams. Let's make this open, let's make it transparent so that you folks can take from our experiences and learn from it, and well, maybe we can have something else better after all is said and done. Okay, so we're releasing all the stuff to everyone once it's done, so that maybe you folks can find errors in my design and point it out so that I learn something, so I don't screw this up as bad next time. Okay. And in combination with learning, I learned definitely by proxy that designing a badge and a game to go along with it is way more harder than I ever imagined. So I had bashed, made privately Joe Grand for years on the whole electronic badge thing, and that the game sucked and the badges are really hard to hack and all that type of stuff. I have a newfound respect for Joe, and Joe, I'm sorry. So it was definitely harder than I ever imagined, but lots of fun and stressful and all that good stuff. So we definitely want to have the spirit of sharing be open and have everybody else learn from this after the fact. Okay. So we had some design considerations that we needed to take into account when we looked at this. We wanted obscure technology, something that neither the red team or the blue team had a lot of experience with, and Zigbee was the choice given that it was the theme of smart meter. So we're seeing a lot of 802.15.4 and Zigbee technologies in the smart meters. And we're just seeing a lot of this in the mainstream, so let's maybe give them some tools and some knowledge for a heads up for the future. Okay. And a lot of the things that we found that the blue teams, the students, had no experience with Zigbee, and most of the red team did not either. So the folks that are doing this day in, day out had very little experience with Zigbee of any variety. So it really ended up being a learning experience for them too. Obviously, funded by your tax dollars, hard at work. There wasn't a lot of money, so we had to think about cost. We wanted it to be usable after the fact, which also meant some potential cost issues. And thirdly, cost. Okay, so the cost was a huge driving factor for the badges. Okay, so a little bit of history. In 2010, I wanted to design the badges for them as well. We did an RFID access control system. So we gave every one of the students a rewritable RFID tag that they used to gain access into their facility. Fortunately, the red team also had the same equipment. They used the same implementation vendor. So they had all of it as well, and they could hack away. The problem is that I wanted to give the students everything they needed to be able to administer their own system, write badges, you name it. The cost was prohibitive. By the time we got done scoping the badges and all the tools they needed, it was going to be about $220 per badge. That doesn't work, especially on a fixed budget. Instead, we got down to about 12, and as Larry being the guy on site as their integrator, I had a writer that they were more than welcome to come use, and I was willing to show them how to use it and that type of stuff. So, we worked through those challenges, but I failed in delivering them everything they needed to either hack or defend in the game. So 2011, there was definitely success here. That being said, like any other open source project that I've ever encountered, we didn't give them all the keys to the kingdom. They had to figure a lot of it out themselves, both red and blue teams. So we gave them this nice little anti-static bag over here on the right, and it told them that they had everything they needed to participate. They had a badge, they had a meter number, and well, the information was out there because they had a nice little URL, which went to this page. And let's make that a little better. Okay. So welcome to the CCDC Open Meter site. Okay, which we talked a lot about, all of the meter, some of the stuff in the background. We gave them links to all the documentation, how to use it as a Wireshark input source for a sniffer, assembling and communicating. We gave them the libraries. We gave them the code running on their badge. They just had to be smart enough to go plug the URL and figure it out. They wanted to see how the backend scoring code works. Great, so did we. Okay, so we gave them the backend scoring code, which also meant we gave both red and blue team the code as well. So they could potentially look for exploits and all that good stuff in there. Okay, so the information was out there. Okay. A little bit about the electronics. It's based on the Freakduino Chibi, so it's an Arduino-based board, completely Arduino compatible, with the addition of a Zigbee radio and a 2.2 dB Omni RPSMA antenna. And more options for power than I knew what to do with. You could add a battery pack on the back, you could power it through a connector, USB, or they had through-hole for AA batteries. Awesome. So we can power this 8 ways to Sunday. Okay. When we originally started looking in the project, when it was proposed to us, we were looking at coming up with a custom board and shields to go along with the standard Arduino. About the time I was sitting down to start doing the eagle for the custom shield, Akiba from Freak Labs in Japan beat me to it and came out with the Freakduino Chibi. And he did an initial release of 40. And I was lucky enough to score one of the initial releases. Sent him an email the day that I ordered it and said, if this works out for me, I need 150 of them by year end. And he damn near fell out of his chair. I could hear it all the way from Japan. Because he builds them in his garage. He does the reflow with a hot plate in his garage, so he built all the SMD work. And yeah, he had to do all those himself, and he was shocked how well this worked. Okay, so we did have a bunch of other badges for operations and those types of folks, but the only ones that actually got the really cool hardware was the red and blue teams. We got the badge cost down to $32 a person. So we're giving them a Zigbee radio on an Arduino, an antenna, and batteries for the whole weekend for $32. And they get to take it home. I was happy with that. We did keep some of the costs down. If you notice on the right-hand side of the picture here, there's a bunch of through-hole parts. We didn't have Akiba put those on. He said it was going to bring the cost up like another $10 for him to do that. So my intern and now coworker Darren and I put those all together, all 150 of them. We spent weeks every night after dinner, 3 hours a night, putting these things together. By the time we're done, it takes us 22 minutes, and we can do it in our sleep. I can still do it and not have to read any manuals and know which way the LEDs and capacitors go with all that stuff. So 22 minutes apiece. That's a pretty decent amount of time. Okay. So we wanted to verify about power consumption. We had never tested how long it would run with AA batteries. So we bought tons of batteries. I picked up just shy of 500 AA batteries off of eBay for about the cost of what it would have taken me to buy like 100 of them at Home Depot. So if you want batteries, get them off of eBay. Oh, hell yeah. The problem is the batteries lasted a lot longer than we expected. They'll run about 4 days of doing continuous receive and the intermittent transmit on a set of AA batteries. Competition was 3 days long, so I've got tons of AAA batteries. Yeah. Way to have batteries for Tiatwaki, right? Yeah, when the shit hits the fan, yeah, I'm good to go. Okay. We gave them the options. Hey, we don't know how this is going to work. It's never been tested. You guys are the beta testers for this meter. This is how we sort of build it from the power company to them. And not only do the really good guys get it, the bad guys get it too. So you guys are going to have to do some troubleshooting for us. If you really want to, if you're concerned about your battery usage, you got a USB cable in your bag. You can plug it in and power it off a USB. I said, be careful. There may be some considerations with that. Maybe you should start reviewing some of the code. So what we did as part of the power consumption, we had it spit out a fixed usage. We had it spit out a fixed usage every 10 minutes. The problem is that it spits out that fixed usage at the end of the cycle. It doesn't spit it at the beginning. So if you turn on battery power, you wait 9 minutes, it hasn't spit out a usage yet, you decide, oh, I should probably plug this thing in. When you plug it into USB, it reboots. and it starts your counter all the way back. They were required to wear their badge to gain access to the contest space. If they had to pee, they had to unplug the badge, put it back around their neck, leave the contest space, go to the bathroom, and come back. And now you're potentially cycling it 2 more times within the same period, so now their usage goes down. And there was penalties for having your usage too low without talking to the power company first. So they had some challenges to overcome. They gave them some ideas about how they can turn off their power consumption. There's some LEDs, and well, yeah, they draw power too, so why don't you turn them off? Problem is, you don't know when your batteries have died. You also don't know when the board's actually transmitting, because it flashes one of the LEDs when it transmits too. You can do it, there's also some consequences. Okay. So yeah, it's a simulated smart meter. It's, smart meter as Larry understands it, and something that can be dealt with in 2 days or 3 days from both an attack and a defense perspective. So they talk wireless over Zigbee about the usage. We give them a fixed usage. We didn't have any other ability and to keep the cost down to say, oh yeah, so we're put a light sensor on it and do it that way. Yeah, no, we wanted a fixed usage, keep the cost down, and now at the end of our scoring interval, we can say students were supposed to have 600 kilowatts of usage in the last scoring interval because it was fixed and we could measure it. Give them some wiggle room, no problem. The other thing that we did was, instead of telling each node about a controller about what their usage was, we told everyone. We sent the usage to broadcast. Well, one, it made it a little easier for the attackers to sniff in 2 days, figure out how to sniff in 2 days. And we thought about it from the perspective of a mesh network. If power meter is connecting to power meter, you're potentially able to see the traffic for multiple power meters spread over a metropolitan area. So give it a little bit of sort of real world considerations and something that we can do low cost. Okay. Wanted it simple, wanted both the students and the attackers to be able to explore it in about 2 days and see how long they want to stay up at night. And one of the things that I always had a problem with Joe's badge is that I wanted free open IDE tools. So everything was based on processing, the programming for the Arduino, and open source libraries. So very few requirements, and gave them links to everything they needed. Okay. All right, now it's time for me to get on my soapbox. So there's a lot of crap in the community, and a lot of the folks in the hardware community that don't like Arduinos. They say it's like Tinker Toys for hardware hackers. And well, maybe it is, but I tend to disagree, because you didn't start, carpenters didn't start building houses with 2x4s and that type of stuff when they were 3 years old. They used Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs. They had to learn somewhere. They had to get started talking about microcontrollers and programming and all that type of stuff. So this is why I really like the Arduino platform. Give the folks the tools that they need to find out if this is even something that interests them. Give them the tools so that they can at least get started, get some of the language under their belt, get some of the ideas under their belt, get the electronics under their belt, and then, holy crap, this is awesome. Let's do more. Well, it's a building block. So it sparks interest and potentially leads them into more complex projects. And some of the other stuff that we want, project requirements was open IDE, easier to learn, a low barrier to entry, so that folks could get this stuff hacked and defended in 2 days. Okay. Not to mention that they're taking an Arduino compatible board home. There's a huge Arduino community that can support them after the contest is over. Whether or not they ever use the Zigbee chip on it, they could do all sorts of other stuff. Okay, so badge code, I had a couple of issues. The Arduino code is single-threaded, and the environment is single-threaded, but I needed multiple threads, and we'll see a little bit on why. I was really glad I wasn't the first to need it, because I was trying to beat my head about how I can fix this, and I used that community to figure out how to do it. When we use the timed action library, which waits for a millisecond counter. When that counter reaches the certain value defined in the library, it says, oh, okay, if that counter is divisible by the value that we're looking for is divisible by the step, great, go run this function. And it comes back from the function and starts counting again, and when it's divisible by the count again, great, go run function number 2. Pretty elegant way to do it. Was happy with it, it worked great. So do one function or other based on the divisibility of your tag. So Larry, why do you need multiple threads? Spitting out a fixed usage every 10 minutes is one thread. You just go through a loop every 10 minutes, spit out a fixed usage. So, a dirty little secret. We didn't tell the students this, but we gave them the links to show them how to do this through the Freakedwino website. When they plugged the USB in for power, they also had a serial console to the badge. So they had one of these. See? So we actually have my badge up here. I'm serial consoled into it with the serial console, and gives them the ability to interact with the badge. So we can start issuing commands to the badge, and it will still continue to spit out usage. So right now we just gave it the command to tell me what my address of my badge, my meter is. We can set that to a different one, and one of the other things that was nice is that we can actually do use the badge to send packets over the Zigbee radio. No analysis of code needed. You just need to figure out what the message actually was to potentially reduce everything. They had everything they needed to either hack or defend their badge right here. We gave it to them right out of the box. They just had to go figure it out. Okay. So automatically receive of broadcast messages. Yeah, and you remember we sent all the messages on usage to broadcast. They could see all of the traffic on the serial console without even having to go through all the hoops for the Wireshark capture. Wasn't particularly nice looking, but as you saw in the terminal there, someone had actually sent me some messages, and I did a replay earlier. So here's our usage. They can see what the message format is right there, usage : space 100. And from the badge number 1337, pay the doctor's employee, right? Awesome. That was not me, by the way. Okay, we can change our meter number, we can inject packets, and we can do one other thing that was interesting we'll get into the follow-up. Okay, all the tools were there and documented from day one. They didn't need to do any coding, and it was all readily available in the documentation, to the point of going to the website, looking here, and here's your commands to start sending packets. That was in the links from the website for the Chibi-Duino. Okay. So again, back to the documentation. The anti-static bag had a URL to the website that had all of the badge code. They can get all the message formats they needed. They can reflash their badges if they screw it up, as long as they got their address. And yeah, this is one of those slides where I went through random images on my hard drive. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so of course you collect things like this. They also had the links to instructions to turn their badges into Wireshark sniffers. So how do you like my new girlfriend? I just met her a few minutes ago. Okay, but you've been with me the whole time. All you have is my hand over there. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, so the same URL that was on the bag also had all the links to the backend scoring code. They could now develop their own messages and see how it was going to be processed by the backend scoring code. Was a couple of shell scripts and some Python, and with very few requirements for them to set up. It was basically you copy it off, you unzip it, and off you go. So you can start processing your own messages. Okay. Both the red team and the blue team had the ability to do this, which turned into a little bit of issues for them. Okay, so for the code, we used Killer Bee by Josh Wright on an RZ USB stick. We did manual start-stop for scoring rounds. They'd say, hey, this is the end, let's stop, we'll take the packet captures off, we'll run it through our scoring engine and do it that way. And a couple of shell scripts and some Python. And a big thanks to Carlos Perez for helping with that. And also a big thanks to Mr. Cutaway for loaning me his RZ USB stick, because some dumbass left his at home. So it makes my demos a little hard to do, to inject traffic when you don't have the hardware to do so. So again, thanks, Cutaway. Okay, so as part of the scoring, we actually used the RSB USB stick on a Linux box and monitored all of the traffic headed to broadcast, and everything headed out. So multiple channels available, and this was what they were told as well. All of the badges were on channel 15. Not a single person asked us to change the channel, even when they were being attacked. I had the ability to support sniffing on multiple channels so they could still be scored. Not a single person asked. Okay, that's fine. So we ignored everything else. And we said, yeah, we have on-demand the ability to add additional channels if you want to. Standard type of technologies in use here. However, the data portion of the packet was completely arbitrary, which we got to do, and shows up as being malformed in Wireshark. So they had to sort of figure that out. It was really easy. You just go turn off 6-low-pan deciphering for Wireshark, and well, now the message is at least readable. Okay. Okay, so again, we did use different hardware on the scoring engine and the AVR USB stick, about $40, and we didn't need to modify it with a killer B firmware because it was just sniffing. And we used the Daintree SNA output because it's ASCII text and was a hell of a lot easier to process with a shell script as opposed to writing Python app to process PCAPs because I suck at programming and also don't know Python very well. So it was way easier for me to do a shell script to do the post-processing. Okay. And we get an output of usage per person and some Python to group that by team. Okay. So being a bad Python programmer and all this type of stuff, first time it's ever been used, the scoring was very organic. Yeah, we gave them the ability to play a little bit. You know, your usage is going to vary per month, per year. So we gave the folks the ability to say, hey, you want to take a couple badges offline and have your usage drop to 400? That's cool. You don't need to do any authorization to that. Take your badge off, reflash it as a Wireshark sniffer, do your thing, take another one, you want to, start injecting messages and change that stuff, that's great. We're not going to penalize you for being within a reasonable range of your energy consumption. Okay. We knew that there were 5 people on a team and they're supposed to have 100 or 600 kilowatts of usage and scoring per period per badge, so there's usage should be 3,000. The math was really easy to do. Let's keep it round numbers. If it's 1,000 lower, okay, no big deal. If it's 1,000 higher, no big deal. When it starts going outside of those ranges, maybe you guys should start looking at some of this stuff. Okay. We told them to be mindful of their usage. Maybe you should be looking at your own usage. We've given you all the tools to do so. And you can make it lower if you want, but defrauding the utility, right, as me, the scoring engine, is a crime. Same thing in real life. So if you want to install solar panels and have your usage run the meter backwards, you need to sign an agreement with your power company first. Fair enough. Let's make that up as part of the game. We had a couple teams that did. Good. Okay. So it turns out the scoring turned into a fucking disaster. Okay. So based on the attackers just taking their badges and running through all of the possible badge numbers, we didn't make them sequential. We split them into 2 different groups. So they just started badge number 0000 through 99999. So now I had to filter out all what was good known badge numbers for the scoring. They put in all sorts of values for stuff that if they had actually read the code and tested any of it, they would have known. At about the end of day 1, I got so frustrated with having to do the scoring for all these extra badge numbers, I told them these are the ranges of badge numbers to use. They didn't listen. Okay, so Excel became my friend and I spent lots of late nights coming up with the scoring. It would have been a lot better had I had spent more time with it, but putting together 150 badges ate up a lot of my time. Lessons to be learned for next time. Okay, so I told you I like internet memes. So someone totally has a weird boner right now. You guys all awake yet? Okay, just checking. All right. So challenges from the scoring engine. We had lots of bogus data, high signal to noise ratio. There was lots of noise and very little actual signal. The scoring engine was very linear. It looked at fixed length fields in the packet, okay, and it only looked at a 3-character value for usage. So this meant a positive 999 was the maximum value you could have for usage. It spit out 100. However, that also took up the same place as negative 999 because it only looked at 3 bytes. So the negative was included in that 3 bytes. Interesting. So if you wanted to reduce your usage, you had to figure out ways to make that happen faster. Because if someone injected a value of just under 1,000 for usage, well, you only inject 1 negative usage of 100. So you had to find a way to speed that up or do more badges or something of the like. The problem was the red team also did the same thing. They started just throwing all sorts of crazy values and didn't effectively utilize the space as was given to them. Okay. While they were doing that, the red team came up with all sorts of crazy stuff for the badges. They even discovered at least one distributed denial of service attack. Because the red team had a bunch of their badges flashed with some attack code and started bringing both the badges and the scoring engine down. Yeah, awesome. This is why we do this. We're not exactly sure where the failure left because I was scrambling trying to get scoring engine back to work. We're not sure whether it was a load on the transmitter, the receiver, the associated protocol stacks, things with Josh's Killer B firmware, stuff with a Killer B code. It's one of those things we still need to go back and look at. They found probably likely bugs all over the place, and maybe even some of the firmware. So we'll figure that out. Okay. So we asked the teams to share all the stuff back with us that they did for attack and defense, and they did. I've had some issues. We've got to get some of the stuff back up on the website to give you. They shared all of the badge firmware, and we have the captures for when the distributed denial of service conditions happened to share with you. When they decided they were going to cycle through meter numbers with a high positive usage to make all of the blue team's usage go off the chart and get them penalized for points. One of the teams took their badge and reprogrammed it to sniff, and when their badge number or any of the team's badge number was seen in the air for a positive value, they immediately took that value and retransmitted a negative so that the usage would stay even. The problem is they also forgot to look at the 3-value field, and they said, okay, well, I used 9999 or 999, and we're going to transmit a negative value, which only ended up being negative 99. So they missed that as well. So they would have had to do some additional math there. Really good concept, but erred in execution. So no worries. Okay, so they had, hey, the ability to install solar. One of them decided they were going to build a nuclear power plant and basically just send all of their badges to high negative values. And I was cool with that because they signed an agreement with the power company. Okay. Not one blue team asked if they could change the channel on their badges. I mean, I would have thought that would have been my first choice, but then again, they were under a lot of pressure in 2 days. Okay, so yeah, they got to take something home. They got to take their stinking badges home. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we all love things with batteries and laser cut acrylic and antennas and little flashy lights and stuff, but they actually got something they could take that was fun and that they could learn from after the fact. Okay, they've got tools that they can now use in the real world. They've got a Wireshark Zigbee sniffer. They've got ports in progress for Killer B that I'm told to be able to use the badge with Killer B. Awesome. We've also gotten the badges in front of smart folks like Josh Wright, the author of Killer B, and Travis Goodspeed. So he has one. I saw him in Philly about a year ago and got him one of these so that he could have one to play with and do all sorts of fun stuff with. We've got all sorts of other functionality. It's a freaking Arduino! Whether or not you use a Zigbee on it anymore, great. Go build a robot, a cat feeder, weapon of mass destruction. Do what you want with it. You got something for free and go have fun with it. Whether or not you decide you don't want to do security anymore or Zigbee, well, now you've got other fun toys to play with. Okay, so a little bit about the future, and otherwise known as the present, because roads, where we're going, we don't need roads, and it's called freaking research, right? Okay, we're releasing everything back to the community, the code, the scoring engine, the lessons learned, hence why I'm talking to you guys some about that today. The stories from the teams, which we've got some of the methods that they used, the comments that they said, hey, Larry, your badge sucked. Yeah, we're sharing all of those too. I am a little behind, I do apologize. Shortly after the competition, when we designed the badge, I was actually living with my mom and my wife and our 2-year-old and our 8 cats out of 2 rooms because we were demolishing our house and building a new house and moving back in. So I'm a little behind on getting that stuff up on the website, but it's coming, I swear, I promise. I've got it all, it just needs to get there. Okay. We want to continue to work with Freak Labs for platform enablement. How can we get Freak Labs to be able to produce these boards better so that we can use them for other conferences at a decent cost? How about we take badges from multiple conferences and have them do cool stuff together? Part of the reason we want to give this all back to you guys is that hey, maybe we can have some community based on this across multiple conferences. Maybe we can come up with better simulation environments. You know, hey, this was the code, this is a smart meter as Larry understands it. It's completely bogus, right? Let's do something better. We've got some issues potentially with freak labs. You know, there's been a whole earthquake and tsunami and that type of stuff. And, you know, Fukushima power plant, they devoted a lot of their hackerspace efforts to other projects not related to this, such as helping the citizens of their community with solar powered lights and the ability to do radiation detection. And we fully support that. And from our understanding, the purchase of the 150 badges actually enabled them to have funds to support those projects. So, you know, that's something that makes us feel real good about that. Okay. And sort of as a joke, maybe we can acquire some DARPA funding from Mudge to make this go further, so that we can have this go further for multiple conferences, right? Okay. So we have an actual real world application from one of the red team members. He loves his Chibiduino, and yes, sometimes with a jar of beet cream. Okay. Big thanks to Brad Bowers, who dropped me a note right before the con. And he spoke at DEF CON. I don't know how I missed it, but he took his Chibiduino and created some firmware in Arduino to be able to make this into a channel hopping XP sniffer. And he tells me that there are loads of interesting packets in Philly. Interesting. So he's got real world tools to now go and start sniffing Zigbee and XP stuff. He released the project at DEF CON 19. I know one of the former ccdc participants is actually here, ran into him yesterday, and he said, yeah, I flashed it with doing the Zigbee sniffing with the channel hopping, and I believe it was with Brad's code. So that's interesting. And he assures me that it runs great for 2+ days on a set of AA batteries. Interesting to maybe go and drop somewhere. So, all right, that's good. Okay, so some conclusions and wrap up. Yeah, we definitely learned something. Yeah, even me. Some of the stuff, you know, definitely learned was, you know, don't wait until the last minute. Maybe it's worth the extra $10 to have someone put those things together, so I'm not doing them in my sleep. Spend more time on doing the code, and even when you do, you're still going to screw stuff up at the end and have to do lots of manual work. And maybe it's a good time for me to learn some more Python, so that, you know, if my Python mastery was there, I could have fixed that right from the beginning. Yeah, I know one of my coworkers would say, don't learn Python, learn Perl. Well, yeah, that's a religious war I don't necessarily want to get into, right? That's like VI versus Emacs. Yeah, who uses Emacs? Who uses VI? Okay, no, it's all right. Who uses Perl? Who uses Python? Okay. What's that? Grudge match? Yeah, going from this audience, you probably don't want to do that. I think the decks are stacked in one way, okay? So, you know, let's build together and be awesome to each other, you know, taking some words from Bill S. Preston Esquire, right? You know, see, totally into internet memes, right? So let's be excellent to each other. Maybe we can come up with some cons that are willing to use the badge and willing to shell out $32 a person. Maybe your conference fee entry go up. Would someone pay an extra $32 to have come to DerbyCon to have a Zigbee badge? Yeah, I think that's a pretty resounding yes, right? With an Arduino for $32? Yeah, all right, let's make it happen. Okay, so yeah, and I'm happy to work with folks, and we give them all the stuff back that maybe we can make this better. And those folks from CCDC that participated can now come and have a badge that they can interface with all their other badges at con. So yeah, all right, cool. Okay, so yes, it is possible to build a game, a badge with wireless on batteries, and that lasts for 2+ days. So as much as Joe Grant may not have wanted to admit it, yes, it's possible. It wasn't easy, and it was way more expensive than some of those DEF CON badges. But you know, thanks to our tax dollars hard at work, we were able to do it. Okay, all right. So anybody got any questions? Yes. So it was split about 50-50. Some of the teams, they didn't have internet access from their actual competition space, but they had internet access available outside of the con space. which was provided for them. They also had internet access at the hotel when the time was done. About the end of day one, half of the teams had gone and read some of the stuff and were working on stuff, spent late hours into the night. There were at least 2 teams that I know of that it was evident on day 2 that they were doing no countermeasures whatsoever. Their usage was just off the chart. They weren't looking at any of it. It wasn't even a concern to them. So, that's part of the learning experience as part of the competition, as to where do you focus your energies. And, it's like going on a pen test and you find a box that you can get into, but you spend 3 days of the customer's time trying to get into that box and you're not successful. So that was one of the valuable lessons that they learned as well. So, yeah, it was about 50-50. Yes, Ray? Yeah.
That not only students, but somewhere the power companies are looking at this and sitting there, folks too. It can't be all of us trying to break shit.
Yeah.
It's learning these lessons, not just the technical lessons, but process lessons.
Yes, so there were some folks there in attendance, again, National Science Foundation, lots of involvement from, whether it be the military or, other various industry applications. There were lots of folks there in attendance that were very interested in sort of the proceedings, just because of the fact that the theme was smart meter, smart energy type of deal. And yeah, we did get to have the conversations with folks. And again, it's all out there, it's all available for them to use as well. And absolutely drop me a note and I'll tell you what limited experience I've got, and maybe we can help that. In the back, question?
They are dealing with those issues. There's a lot of smart people in the industry. There's a lot of engineers that go into it. Certainly whenever you start out, it's difficult to kind of understand what people, especially like us, are going to throw at it. What they are doing, then they are learning their lessons. And just a year and a half, I just think already been dealing directly with that. A lot of the things just from the people that are inputting to them from the bottom up, from the pen testers' point of view, I've active ourselves, a couple other people out there, taking those lessons to heart, and they're implementing it as quickly and as cost effectively as they can.
So you mean to say that they may be actually learning from schmucks like me?
Absolutely.
Woohoo! Shit, no, the boss is down front. Yes, question.
When you're designing these competitions, do you ever give any thought to allowing them to modify the actual hardware as well?
Absolutely. So we thought about allowing them to modify the hardware? Absolutely. That's potentially one of the things that we're going to see how we can enable that for next year, and maybe give them a soldering iron in their kit to go along with it. So, yeah, and maybe give them a proto shield so they can do some stuff and go down that way. And yeah, we've definitely talked about some of those types of things. I did a workshop at HackKid in Boston, where we did some hardware stuff. We gave them the ability to build a 555 timer circuit. So it's definitely something that I'd like to see them do. You had another one? Okay. Any other questions? I really suggest doing this. I hate getting junk mail. So if you get one of these in the mail, write Snape kills Dumbledore in it and mail it back to them, and they got to pay postage. Tape it to a brick. Yeah, that's a good idea. Right. It doesn't work anymore. Spare change. Because that's kind of heavy. Sand. Take your pick. The paper's good though. You're like really not defrauding them. You actually sent them something important. Right? Okay. So if you want to get in touch with me, we'll leave this up here for a minute or two. But yeah, if you got any questions, comments after the fact, absolutely don't hesitate. And we'll make sure that you guys can get the URL if you can read it off the package, because I had to remember where it was too. You can read it off the package and the slides. And within the next week or so, I am going to get all of the traffic captures and all that stuff up on the website so that you guys can look at it too. Cool. So thanks very much for coming out for me for this morning and not going to see Carlos. Great. Thank you.